Hi everyone, welcome back to Young and Wiped Up. This is Marcella.
And I'm Gabby.
And thanks for joining us this week for another episode.
We would really appreciate it if you would take the time today to rate and review our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen. We really appreciate everybody's efforts at helping us become more visible on the charts. And a huge thank you to all of our monthly Patreon supporters. We couldn't do any of this without you. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that is near and dear to our hearts, something that Marcel and I have been discussing about on our own in private conversations that we think we'd like to finally, after processing a lot of it together, finally bring it before all of you. And we want to approach this topic with sensitivity, but also a lot of gravity, because we are going to be talking about something that is a little bit controversial and a little bit talking about something heavy that requires all of us to examine ourselves on how we are influenced by others, especially when it comes to spiritual matters and opinions and decisions that we make in our families that have a lot of weight. So before we start that, Marcella, can you read to us Titus 2:3-5?
Yes, it says, "The aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed."
Thank you, Marcella. Another reason I wanted to talk about this today is that one of my friends, her name is Jessie Bridges. She has an online presence on Instagram, and she also has a Substack. I'm going to be including this article on our episode notes today, but I posted this article recently on our Facebook group and on our Patreon, encouraging everybody to read because it really spoke to my heart and things that I really have been thinking about and praying about and discussing with Marcella about. And I also think that it's appropriate that this woman, my friend that wrote it, is actually a more seasoned woman, mother, wife, and she has, I think, a lot of weight in the words that she's saying. And I think anything Marcella and I say today should be viewed in light of scripture. And also, I would encourage you to go and read this article yourself. This article is called Older Women, Younger Women. And again, I encourage you to go and read it because we're going to be discussing some of it because she talks about a lot of these topics that we're going to be addressing today. So just to summarize a little bit of what Jessie addresses in her article. Jessie talks about the growing issue of young Christian women following unstable online influencers rather than seeking wisdom from older women. She also touches on the generational disconnect between older and younger women in the church. Both sides express frustration. Younger women often can't find or connect with older mentors, while older women feel rejected or unneeded. In light of this phenomenon, Jessie makes a plea for change, and also she offers practical, intentional steps for both groups to foster relationships, share skills, and live out the Titus 2 model of discipleship. It's a great read, and I highly recommend it. In light of this, a trend that Marcella and I have been discussing together, which Jessie describes in length in the beginning of her article, is this. Many young women follow online influencers who claim Christ but are untethered from biblical principles, unstable in their own faith, are not being held accountable by their church, let alone their husband. These influencers place themselves as a voice of authority in spiritual matters and teach the fundamentals of their theology in front of a camera instead of preaching on a stage. And this is something that I know that you and I have talked about in length, that a lot of these women are in conservative churches that would not be okay with a woman preaching on stage or teaching a mixed gendered group, but they are using their platforms to teach theology, to talk about these weighty matters that many pastors and elders and husbands should be leading women and wives in. And not that this isn't something that we can discuss with one another. Marcella and I talk a lot about practical theology on our podcast. We discuss with our friends after church about the sermon that we listen to, what we're reading, these weighty theological things. That's not what we have a problem with. We even have a whole episode, a couple seasons ago, completely dedicated to encouraging all of us to study theology, to care about it, and to discuss it among women. That's not the problem that we have with this, though. Many of these influencers make rapid public shifts in their beliefs in religion, education, parenting philosophies, etc. They learn something new one day, and then the very next day they are teaching others about it as if they are the experts. These same influencers are not careful and using their influence and often lead young women to destruction. This is very near and dear to our hearts. We have seen this in close friends, people that we love that are swept up and make huge life changes because of these 30-second videos that all of a sudden change the trajectory of their life. Marcella, do you want to add anything to this?
I don't think so. Just that this is all like come to a head for us, like just over the past, I don't even know, maybe 5 or 6 years of like as like the like trad wife movement on social media has become a lot more prominent. And I feel like those of us who kind of witnessed the beginnings of many of like main accounts, like OG people, I would say. And you know what? There are a lot of them that have remained faithful because they were starting off already rooted in something, they're older, there's a bit more wisdom to lean on there, like from the Lord. And then we've also seen some like really interesting, I guess is the most charitable way to put it, interesting switch ups among different women that we've followed over the years, and just wondering how wise is it to be so rash and
Mm-hmm.
public at the same time about these things. Like, I think there are definitely consequences. We've seen things even happen in, real life, personal relationships over the years of just like really unfortunate things happening. And so this is kind of why we wanted to talk about it, because this hasn't been like a new thing that we've like recently noticed in the past like
Mm-hmm.
month or two. It's been like
Mm-hmm.
for quite a while now that we've noticed this kind of strange trajectory of like the social media stuff, the influencers, and kind of like the spiritual influencer side of
Mm-hmm.
this as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
we can move on.
Yeah, I'd love for you to take the next heading.
Okay, so why do young women turn to social media and influencers instead of older or wiser women in their local communities? I think we can all take some pretty great guesses, and I'm sure this is also a conversation that maybe happens quite frequently if you're somewhat heavily involved in your church, if you feel like there is a Titus 2 women presence lacking in your church, or if you yourself are Titus 2 women and have earned that title over many years of serving the Lord, in your home and family and everything, your church and all of that. How you may be thinking, why does nobody care? like
Mm.
like what I have to say, and I may have something helpful to contribute.
Mhm.
I mean, we should really consider that influencers we follow have absolutely no skin in the game. And by no skin in the game, we mean in your personal life. In your personal life, what's going on in your home, in your marriage, with your children, in your church, with your fellow believers, in your extended family, the whole thing, your workplace, whatever it is that's going on. They cannot offer us real accountability or tangible help like an actual physical woman face to face in your community can. So we should also consider that maybe pride may be stopping us from asking for advice, or help or mentorship. Are we willing to be taught? I think this is interesting as far as like it's easier for us to get into like an echo chamber with peers about
Mm.
what we think is the right way to go about something. But I think our conversations may be a little different if there's an older woman that we respect. Um, and it might like change the direction of those conversations, no matter what it's about. Spiritual life, parenting, marriage, like, are we willing for someone to speak into those aspects of our life?
Mhm. Yeah, I completely agree. I've heard even explicit comments from many of my peers, particularly those that have children, that that they know what they want to do and they don't need people's advice, or they don't want to hear what an older woman has to say, or she may have outdated parenting advice, or she doesn't know my life
What it's
circumstance.
like.
And
Yeah.
and it's been so long since she's had little ones. What can she possibly say to me? And I feel like that comes, like you said, from a position of pride. And I know from experience with conversations I've had with others that as they grow older and as I grow older, I look back and think, wow, I thought I knew everything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I don't. And we don't. Nobody arrives. Even the Titus 2 woman hasn't arrived herself.
Mhm.
We should always have somebody that we are willing to take correction from,
Yeah.
especially an older woman who loves us and wants to speak into our life. And I think that we can maybe romanticize what the Titus 2 relationship could be like between an older and a younger woman. And I
Yeah,
think that,
that she will never steer you wrong,
yes.
or maybe that she'll affirm everything that you've
Mhm.
already thought and be like, "Oh, well, yes, that is the wisest decision you could make, and I can agree that, that is the best thing." And then it's like when you start that relationship with somebody, with an older woman, and maybe there's no, I don't want to say confrontation, but like a little bit of friction in ideas,
Mhm.
and approaches. I i think the burden is on us still to respect them
Mhm.
as our elders in a way.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that, I don't know. I also feel like sometimes younger women, because of like the jargon that we're hearing all the time, we can choose not to let any older women speak into our lives about certain things, or maybe we're very like guarded about certain things. It's like you were saying, I know what I want to do about this and this. And
Mhm.
so then not letting somebody else speak to that certain thing, that's like a boundary. Gotta make sure I put the
Mm.
boundaries, and not let them say anything. And obviously we're we're talking about, something that's obviously somebody loves you, they're reasonable, and
Mhm.
even if maybe you come across an older woman, I feel like we've all had this personal experience who's a little bit pushy about certain things.
Mm,
There's still a way to honor and respect your elders and
mhm,
disagree at the same time. Ultimately, it's going to come down to what do you and your husband
mhm.
agree that you're going to do for your own family, what's going to be the best thing.
Right.
And your husband has his own responsibility to make sure that he has older men also speaking into his
Absolutely.
life. That way you both have that like wise influence. Um, but I think there's still a way to honor those who are older, have had many more years of experience. And I understand, like, just because somebody is old does not automatically mean they're wise. You can be old and be a
Yes.
fool.
Yes. The
That's
scriptures are
absolutely,
clear about that.
yes. And I would think like putting up boundaries with foolish people would be a
Mhm.
wise thing to do. But I mean, asking the Lord to search your heart, am I like put off by this because there's pride in me that I don't want to accept advice because it might mean that I'm wrong about this thing? Or
Mhm.
is this a situation that, I shouldn't be in? Like maybe this person has a pattern of foolish decisions, and you can kind of see the life clutter around them, and it's like I don't really want to emulate what
Mhm.
and who they are. So like thinking about those different things as well.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
totally agree. I think another aspect that Jessie even lays out in her article is that there can be an aspect of the fear of rejection from us younger women.
Mhm.
We desire a spiritual mother or a wise friend to come alongside us, but worry that they don't want the same thing. And it's like, how do we approach this? Well, I would ask you to consider that there are many older women, just again, as Jessie lays out in her article, that desire to share their wisdom and knowledge with us, but we may not be valuing the older women in our community or considering what they may have to offer us. There may be somebody in your life that you haven't even considered that they may have something to offer you. It doesn't even necessarily have to be like this great spiritual mother, but somebody that can offer you some help as a homemaker or as a mother, or that can come alongside you and teach you a new skill. And we hadn't even considered that they would be able to do that. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is that there is always somebody that's a little bit ahead of you in life that you can look up to and ask for help and wisdom for. It doesn't mean they have to be 20, 30 years older than you in order for you to be like, okay, that's a Titus 2 woman right there. Like Marcella said,
Sure.
age is not the only qualification that is given here in this passage. And it's holiness, discretion, submission to their husbands. There's so many things. Not a drunk woman who's constantly drinking. There's a lot of things that go into it. So if there is somebody in your life that maybe is even like 10 years older than you, that has a little bit older children than you do, and you really respect how they mother, how they treat their husband, you see how they act towards others, that is somebody to consider yourself, especially in a context like a church that I'm currently a part of. Many of the families, I'd say majority of the families in our church, are in the 20s to 30s range. And so we don't have a ton of aged women in our church. But in my perspective, I just turned 30 recently. And I do have many women in my church that are 5, 10 years older than me that I look up to and respect, and that I want their help and their advice or their wisdom or their prayers in some areas. And you can even look beyond your church if you have Christian family members. If you want to reach out to a biblical counselor that's a woman that's older. I'm talking to an older woman right now who's she's not elderly, but she's older than me. She's a grandmother, and she is an ACBC counselor. She's in my denomination. So that even checks the box of like a spiritual, we have compatibility spiritually where we, affirm the same spiritual truths, theological truths. And so even in our counseling sessions that I do twice a month with her, there is some Titus 2 dynamic happening there. So there's so many ways that you can experience this, even if you don't necessarily have all these grandmas at your disposal.
Yeah.
Also, like we said before, are we ready and willing for this type of relationship to be imperfect and flawed? Are we willing to go through possible growing pains in order to be blessed? Like, if we have one negative experience with somebody and we put our guard up and we're like, oh, like this is not going to work. This is not going to work. They said something about my parenting that I totally disagree with, or I think is unbiblical, or whatever. Or they said something about the homeschool curriculum that I decided to do, or they steered me the wrong way on a recipe and I just can't. It's like Marcella said before, are we willing to kind of push through and with a healthy mindset and with discernment to go through what a possible relationship could look like, where we're not only just having conversations and having help from our peers, those that were coming alongside. Those relationships are so important too. And we talk about those a lot on the podcast. But that an aspect of having an older woman and wiser woman speaking into your life is gold. And if you have that, cherish it and treasure it and don't take it for granted. And if you haven't considered asking somebody in your church or somebody in your community, or even just going beyond and reaching outside of your community, is somebody willing to take me on? Is somebody willing to counsel me? Is somebody willing to point me in the right direction? Is somebody able to help me through some marital issues I'm going through? Those situations, like, I think that we should all consider that and consider how we can do that now. Marcella, can you talk about other thoughts and notes that we have that are not as directly related to the Titus 2 situation, but more related to how we're being influenced online?
Yeah. So I think some good, like, self-reflective questions we can ask ourselves when it comes to how we are using or possibly abusing social media when it comes to this sort of almost lack of a give and take relationship when it comes to influencers. Are we having good discernment on social media? We're not saying get off all of it, don't follow anybody, don't listen
Burn
to
it all.
anybody. Yeah, no, okay. I mean, that would include us. Like, don't listen to the podcast anymore. Then, like, that's
No
that's
more
not the
no
point.
more Young and Wifed Up. I'm done with you guys. You said to get rid of it. I'm getting rid of it. If we are a stumbling block for you, please stop listening.
Yeah, honestly. Are we able to truly filter out what is true and untrue based off of what we're seeing online? Are we able to recall biblical principles or scriptures that clarify or reject what someone may be trying to influence us to? And along with that, are we making efforts to have real connection and edifying conversations with our sisters in Christ, young and old? This doesn't just have to do with, I know, like, the whole premise of the podcast is that we're young-ish wives and still relatively young.
Yeah.
Relatively young. I lost my train of thought. But we are also, we can't think of it like you suddenly arrive at being like a Titus 2 example one day and you're like, oh, I'm suddenly like qualified for this title. It's like, this is something that is built now. It's something that starts now. The habits start now. And you are technically probably an older woman to another girl in your church. Just like those, like Abby was saying, who are even 5-10 years older than us. They don't have to be like, well, you must be 65 and older in order to qualify as a Titus 2 woman. It's just not how it works. Are we content with the transactional relationships that we have with influencers where we consume their content and they don't genuinely know us or pour into our lives? So if we feel like, well, we see this so much. I found my tribe finally. And it's like they're online besties. Now, am I saying that having real relationships with people online is not a real thing. No, like, of course, we have met several of like our closest friends through like social media, but a part of that was an effort
Mhm.
to make sure that there was also like a physical face-to-face connection of
Mhm.
I can see into your life and home. I can see into
Mhm.
your life and home. Do we really know each other and what's going on? And that it's like real people that we're making a connection with and not just, well, I'm getting my real advice from these other ladies because I mean, all these other 12,000 people listen to what they say, so why shouldn't I? We should
Mhm.
not be content with that. Are we stable in our faith, or are we tossed to and fro by the winds of internet doctrine? We should
Mm.
just call it.
Mm. Preach
Um,
or don't
Twitter
preach.
doctrine. Twitter doctrine. Yeah, no preaching here. If a new theological idea comes across our screen, do we search the scriptures? Do we speak to our husband, our pastor, our elders about it? Do we commit it to prayer? Or do we just decide on our own in our own heads, well, this is what we're doing now?
Mhm.
And that's it. We're just changing our whole trajectory.
Mhm.
And just based off of this, like you were saying, this 30-second video, all of a sudden I've been convinced
Yeah.
that this is
If
the
you
right way to
have
go.
Yes, if you come across a video on the internet, short form video or any form of video that causes you to have a crisis of faith, you need to go and talk to somebody in authority over you
Yeah.
because if this happens to you where you come across something that completely rocks your world and where you are questioning all the things that you hold dear, that is a sign that you are spiritually unstable and
Mhm.
you need to probably get off of the internet for a while and get your
Yeah.
head into the scriptures, to open your ears during the preaching of the word, and to talk to your husband and to your friends that are Christians that are stable about what is concerning you.
Mhm.
And I feel like so many of these things can be prevented by talking about what we're consuming with our
Mhm.
husbands and
Yeah.
with people that we trust. If
Yeah.
you have a godly friend in your life that is willing to be honest with you and say, hey, I'm noticing that you're liking these things or sharing these things on social media. I'm concerned about this. Are we
Yeah.
willing to heed that caution? And we should be willing to be corrected if we are letting ourselves be changed and influenced by the internet into a way that pulls us away from the gospel, pulls us away from our duties to our home, to our family, to our
Mhm.
community, and that is enticing us to a life that looks very attractive on the
Mhm.
outside, a life
Mhm.
that affirms your flesh, the things that you want, the things that you don't want to change,
Mhm.
and in the worst case scenarios can lead you away from Christ. I've seen it happen. It is scary. It has rocked my world multiple times where people in my life that I loved, that I respected, were so enamored by what they were watching online that it pulled them away from a genuine faith in the gospel, in the real true gospel. And I
Yeah.
think that this is something that needs to be talked about. And I'm
Yeah.
grateful for somebody like Jessie who made this article. We are not the only ones noticing this. It's like you and I could
Yeah.
talk about this, and I'm like, are we crazy? It's like,
Yeah.
why is nobody addressing this? Why is
I
nobody
think
talking about
I
it?
think at this point pretty much everybody can name at least one or two people that they know that it was like, oh yeah, my friend said that they saw this, either a religious influencer or even like a secular one. Like, we're
Mhm.
not even talking about, if you read Jessie's article, she kind of like throws some different examples in there of just like how you can go so from one extreme to
Mhm.
another, just in so many different areas, like spiritually or even like parenting wise and like all
Mhm.
these different things. We can all think of somebody who just like veered completely off. And it was like, what happened? And it's like, you
Mhm.
go and talk to them. It's like, oh, well, yeah, the seed, even if it wasn't
The
the,
catalyst.
it wasn't the catalyst, like it wasn't like the end result was because of this thing that I saw online. It was like there was a seed planted
Mhm.
by something they saw online. And you know what? Especially with these short form videos, they have to be captivating. They have
Mhm.
to, like, they're created, especially the ones that go viral, they are created to catch your attention and make you think, like, wait, have I thought about that? Or that is like, I'm intrigued now. Or
Mhm.
this is very convincing. And
Mhm.
so like we have to be on guard because it can be a lot of smoke and mirrors and like we don't even realize that
Yeah.
that's what we're consuming.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. This is like, online literacy 101. You know,
Yeah.
it's like none of us are immune. The second we think we are immune to that sort of thing is the second that we let our guard down. And
Mhm.
I can be honest myself that there was certain things I was consuming a couple years ago where I was being desensitized to things that I think are deplorable and evil. And it's
Mhm.
like it happens slowly but surely. If we do not flee from that sort of thing and not entertain it, it starts to slowly chip away at your psyche until
Mhm.
now you're being desensitized and now you're being accepting. And it goes from accepting to affirming and then
Mhm.
embracing. And it's
Mhm.
like we need to be careful to be slow to change our view, our mind on things, to really get to the root of why that is happening.
Yeah.
And if we do, because this has happened to both Marcella and I, where over the last decade, Marcella and I have had very large theological shifts in our lives. And
Mhm.
some people noticed, probably, but some people probably still don't even know. And some
Yeah.
people they found out way later on because there had to be a time of being quiet and learning and being discipled. Is this true? Searching the
And
scriptures.
yeah, and
Is this true?
neither neither of our situations when it came to like how did we become reformed to this and that and then like
Mm-hmm.
the progression of where we are now, neither of us, that was not due to online influence.
Mm-hmm.
It was based off of real in-person
Yes. Discipleship.
spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
yes, spiritual discipleship, and not
Relationships with
because,
real
yes,
people.
yeah, and not because, and obviously like that is also not like a guarantee you're going to make the right
Right.
choice if you
Right.
like do it
Of
in
course.
person. Like the
Yeah.
opposite, it's like you must always use the discernment no matter in what way you're like
Mm-hmm.
consuming any kind of information, new ideas or anything like that. And again, testing everything against scripture. But yeah, it wasn't because like, oh yeah, we like came across these influencers or like social media like people
Mm-hmm.
that we don't really know, and it's like, wow, such like a convincing argument
Mm-hmm. While they're making
about
bread,
this.
baking bread, talking to me about the regulative principle of worship.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also like I know that both of us were really careful to not put ourselves in a position where we were teaching Reformed theology or
Mhm.
or or speaking up about it too soon before we could say with confidence, after time and testing, this is what we
Right.
believe,
Yeah, exactly.
because
Yeah. Which was
we
after, like,
feel the weight of
years
that.
of yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we feel the weight of that. It's like if I say this is what I believe and I have influence over others, as small as it may be, because you and I are considered, like, what are they called? Nano influencers. Like, we're not even micro, we're nano influencers.
Yeah.
It's like this, even the small, minuscule influence that you and I have, we feel the weight of that. That if we say something or recommend something, there is weight behind what we are saying. And if we have not been rooted and had a strong foundation ourselves, we understand that we have the power in our tongues to convince others that what we believe is true.
Ooh,
And,
yeah. Yeah. Or may look up to us, or like they enjoy our content or whatever.
mhm,
Yeah, we have tried our best to be very careful. And like it doesn't come without, if people ask questions like, well, what does that mean? It's like, well, we're
mhm,
happy to answer,
mhm,
you know, factually, like, what does it mean that you're reformed? Like, some people, like, don't know, like, at
mhm,
all.
mhm.
And we keep talking about, like, the spiritual side of this, and obviously this can go for anything. Your homemaking philosophy, homeschooling, parenting. I mean, I feel like we covered a lot of things, but I feel like the spiritual side of this is the most
Serious.
urgent and
Yes.
pressing thing
Yes,
when it comes to
absolutely.
all of this. And so that's why
The
we're kind of
stakes
like,
are so much higher.
they are so much higher, and that's why we're kind of emphasizing it more. But yeah, it's something that we've had to be careful about, and even being honest, like in the very, very beginning, early stages of us. I mean, we're still learning. To this day, we will never stop
Mhm,
learning about all of this. No, nobody, not even the best theologian, has arrived to all of the knowledge about the Lord. And but in like the very early stages, like, well, I'll be honest with you, I don't know. But I can
mhm.
try to find out and, like, try to give you an answer, but or it's like, let me direct you to my pastor's sermon online. He,
Yes.
like, does a really great job of, like, fleshing this out and explaining in a way that I probably would not be able to, that would make sense, because I'm still learning myself. But
Mhm,
like, we've recommended so many things, like,
mhm.
in that context as well, like redirecting also to those who are in, like, spiritual authority over us. And it's like, here's the real influencer here.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
should be,
and
yeah.
yeah, exactly, and if you, dear listener, you have a sphere of influence and online presence yourself, no matter how small, if you use your voice on a public platform, whether it be with a blog or a Facebook group or whatever, we encourage you to consider that too. That if you
Mhm.
have a voice and you have an audience, no matter if it's 50 people, 200 people, 2,000 people, 20,000 people, like, to really think about what am I representing online?
Mhm.
And what am I sharing? Am I being careful about what I'm sharing? Am I looking at that page that I'm sharing from? Is it a reputable source? That sort of thing. Like, we
Mhm.
should be very slow to share
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I
when it
agree.
comes to these weighty matters.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up today's episode?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Please check out Jessie Bridges' article. Again, I will go ahead and chuck it in the podcast notes, and we will talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.